버크셔 해서웨이의 24년 주주총회 오후 세션 하이라이트 함께 시청하도록 하겠습니다. 알파컨덕터 채널 구독과 좋아요, 알림 설정하시면 최신 영상을 가장 빠르게 시청하실 수 있습니다. 알파 멤버십에 가입하시면 알파컨덕터의 포트폴리오 편출입 전략을 채팅방에서 실시간으로 받아보실 수 있습니다.
Good afternoon, Mr. Buffett, Mr. Abel. My name is Sirapop Wo, a resident of New Zealand, but originally from Thailand. This is my first time in America and the first time attending the meeting. The journey was quite rough, but it was all worth it though, because I can now personally thank you, Mr. Buffett, and the late Charlie Munger, were he still with us, for organizing such a wonderful event, and most importantly, for being such an exceptional role models and sharing your wisdom with us all these years. So, thank you.
Well, thank you for coming.
So here's my question for you, Mr. Buffett. Towards the end of 2018, you mentioned that you guarantee you could make a 50% annual return if you had to start again with under $1 million. The question is, if tomorrow you woke up in the body of
your body.
20-year-old American.
Your body. But that's fine.
And your name was now Warren a la carte. And you had some money to invest on a full-time basis. What method or methods would you use to achieve that return? Would it involve flipping through 20,000 pages of Moody's manual or similar publications?
Yep.
Or finding, to find cigarettes? Or would it be hunting for great companies at a fair price as Mr. Munger would? Or would it be a combination of both with opportunity cost serving as the final arbiter of which method to use, given that your investing opportunity has now broadened significantly? Thank you. ขอบคุณครับ
Good question. I'm glad you came. And the answer would be, in my particular case, it would be going through the 20,000 pages. And since we were talking about railroads, I went through the Moody's Transportation Manual a couple of times. That was 1,500 or 2,000 pages, or probably 1,500 pages. And I found all kinds of interesting things when I was 50 or when I was 20 or 21. And I don't imagine there's anybody here that knows about the Green Bay and Western Railroad Company, but there were hundreds and hundreds of railroad companies, and I like to read about every one of them. The Green Bay and Western, in those days, everybody had a nickname for railroads. I mean, that was just what Northern Pacific was the Nipper, and Phoebe Snow was one of them in the east that used to go up to Cornell, and the Green Bay and Western was known as grab baggage and walk, and GB&W, and they had a bond that was actually the common stock, and they had a common stock that was actually a bond, and that could lead to unusual things, but they wouldn't lead to unusual things that would work for you with many millions of dollars. But if you collected a whole bunch of those, which I set out to do, and actually that's what impressed Charlie when I first met him, because I knew all the details of all these little companies on the West Coast that he thought I would never have heard of. But I knew about the Los Angeles Athletic Club or whatever it might be, and he thought he was the only one that knew about that, and that became an instant point of connection. So, to answer your question, I don't know what the equivalent of Moody's manuals or anything would be now, but I would try and know everything about everything small, and I would find something, and with $1 million you could earn 50% a year. But you have to be in love with the subject. You can't just be in love with the money. You really got to just find it like essentially like, people find other things in other fields because they just love looking for it. A biologist looks for something because they want to find something. And that's built into, I don't know how the human brain works that much, and I don't think anybody understands too well how the human brain works. But there's different people that just find it exciting to expand their knowledge in a given area. I know great bridge players. I know great chess players. Actually, Kasparov came to Omaha and met Mrs. B. I've had the luck of meeting a lot of people that are unbelievably smart in their own arena and do some unbelievably dumb things in other areas. So all I know is the human brain is complicated, but it does its best when you find out what your brain is really suited for, and then you just pound the hell out of it from that point. And that's what I would be doing if I had a small amount of money and I wanted to make 50% a year. But I also wanted to just play the game. And you can't do it if you don't find the game of interest, whether it's bridge or whatever it may be, chess, or in this case, finding securities that are undervalued. But it sounds to me like you're on the right track. I mean, anybody that'll come all the way to this annual meeting has got something in their mind other than bridge or chess. So I'm glad you came, and come again next year. And now we move.
Jeff Robelier from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I'm thinking of Dr. Graham, Mr. Munger, your father, and my question is for all of us, but it's probably especially for the younger people in the room, the importance of picking the right heroes in life, choosing friends wisely, and maybe tell us a story, if you could, about each of those folks. Thank you, sir.
Well, there's no question you're 100% right in terms of having the right heroes. And, you're lucky if you get them. I mean, Charlie had them. I had them. And the interesting thing, my sister is here today. My younger sister with the two survivors. And we both experienced having the same hero, even though as we grew older, we saw that we didn't agree with plenty of his ideas, but we did agree with his values and motivation. And that's a better lesson than having somebody that's reading to you from a catechism that has got a lot of rules in it, which are pretty good rules, but there's a special place for somebody that is going to continue loving you, even if you break some of the rules. And that's what Charlie had in his life, was what Bernie and I had in our life. So I would just repeat what you said. I don't need to give you a bunch of, when I ran away from home, I'll give you a specific example with me. When I ran away from home and we hitchhiked up to Hershey, Pennsylvania, and got picked up by the state police and everything, and I talked these other two guys into it. And we lied like crazy to the state police, saying we had our parents' permission. Some kid at the place where we stayed had tipped them off that we'd run away from home, and we started, like I said, when the state police picked us up, we decided that two things, we decided to tell them a bunch of lies about the fact we had our parents' permission, and we decided we better get out of Hershey because these cops were going to find out sooner or later. And so anyway, we ended up back in Washington after a couple of days. And when I walked in the door, one of the boys' mother, and this other kid was the Congressman Roger Bell, and his mother was in the hospital over this whole thing. He'd taken out his cash in his savings bonds, and so she was sick, and Judge Bell, her husband, was all concerned and everything. And I walked in the door in Washington, and my mother said, "How come you came back so soon?" And my father said, he said, I know you can do better. And I just paid more attention to my father than my mother. And so you want to have the right heroes, and you don't have to have them. It's not the heroes based on what they've accomplished, and it's the people that you want to be yourself. And if you copy the right people, you're off to a great start. And I don't mean a great start about making money. I mean a great start about living your life. So you can check with my sister Bertie, who's here, and see if I've told the story correctly. She ran away from home too, incidentally, but she didn't get as far as I got. But she was running away to go over to my grandfather's house, which was about 2 miles away. But I don't want to denigrate her runaway abilities, because she was much more accomplished than I am in all kinds of other things. But when it comes to running away, I definitely outclassed her. Okay.
This question comes from Linda Frazier in Westport, Connecticut. Dear Mr. Buffett, in the past you've specified that 90% of your wife's inheritance be invested in a low-cost S&P 500 index fund and 10% in short-term government bonds. But the market cap of the Magnificent Seven tech stocks now represents more than 1/4 of the market cap-weighted S&P 500 index, which seems like a big bet on the tech sector. I was wondering if you would now recommend investing some portion of the funds in a low-cost, equal-weight S&P 500 index fund rather than having all of the equities exposure in a tech-heavy market cap-weighted fund.
Well, that's an interesting question, and I will tell you that I revise my will about every 3 years or so, and I get little thoughts from time to time, and then you don't change it every time you do it. You get a tiny thing, but the one section I haven't changed is that with my wife, that she got left a huge amount of money by practically anybody's measurement, except a pittance compared to what I've accumulated in total. And it won't make one bit of difference to her in life, whether she beats the S&P or anything else. All I want to leave is plenty of money to take care of way beyond anything she'll ever spend, and at the same time give her as much peace of mind as possible, and really make it so that the trustee who administers it doesn't have to worry about whether it just doesn't make any difference whether she beats the S&P or not. And the main thing is that she feels that she's in a financial position, which of course she will be, that she doesn't even need to think about it, and the trustee doesn't have to worry about getting sued or anything else. So it's simply not an economic condition. Now, obviously, with 99% plus of what I have going to philanthropy, and I've got my 3 children. The one good thing is that they've, at the age of 70, 69, and 65, they have matured remarkably, probably more than their father, and but at the same time, they've got less time to work with the money than they would if they were 50 or something like that. So you do the best in accomplishing your objectives in your will, and in the end, you don't know what's going to happen after you die, but you make sure that to the extent that you leave, you have a lot of money to leave. Obviously, you want to say thanks to a lot of people, and quite a few people in terms of specific requests. You want to take care of your family, but in my case, that requires practically no money, and a fair amount for taxes, but and my children are in charge of what happens to the funds that are left. But like I say, the problem is when you live as long as I have and your kids get older, who knows what happens with mortality tables, and they're the ones that I really want to see handle the distributions, and they will, and they'll be very good about it. And but if we're all alive 3 years from now, they'll be 3 years older, and so everything, you can't solve everything in life. You do the best you can with it. And people do interesting things. I've been around probably as many rich people as almost anybody, and a fair number of them, I know what they're doing or have done with their funds. And the idea that you can have a huge amount of money and leave everybody very rich and have people liking each other less when it all happens humans are really they are interesting to watch. Some of them handle it beautifully and others are terrible. The one thing lawyers will always tell you is don't use codicils. In other words, when you change your mind on a will, just write a new one, but tear up the old one. Don't do it by just adding codicils. But I believe I'm correct.
Hello, my name is Dennis from Gifhorn, Germany. I'm my first time here. I'm here with my friend who would, by the way, love to invite you to dinner. You talked about the importance of heroes, and we are very happy and thankful that we have you as our hero with great values, and thank you for that, first of all. My question is, it is clear that you achieved great success in life. Earlier you talked about every investment having opportunity cost. From what I've learned in life, that does not only apply to investing your money, but also to investing your time.
Right.
And every hour you spend in your office is an hour you cannot spend with your spouse or children. With the life experience you have now, if you had the possibility to start all over again, would you set your priorities any different? If yes, how and why? And what's the best way to invite you to dinner?
Well, that definitely won't be one of my priorities if I figure out how to. But that doesn't. Don't take it personally, because when you can figure out at the maximum how long a period I've got, and I don't think. I can figure out all kinds of things that should have been done differently, but so what? I'm not perfect. I don't believe in lots of self-criticism or being unrealistic about either what you are or what you've accomplished or what you'd like to do. You do a lot of things, and who knows whether somewhat different trade-offs you just can't. You don't know what the paths would have led. I don't think there's any room in beating up yourself over what's happened in the past. It's happened, and you get to live the rest of the life, and you don't know how long it's going to be, and you keep trying to do the things that are important to you. And if I was a doctor, or if I was all kinds of different professions, I might do different things, but I really enjoy managing money for people who trust me. I don't have any reason to do it for financial reasons. I'm not running a hedge fund or getting an override on or anything, but I just like the feeling of being trusted. Charlie felt the same way. That's a good way to feel in life, and it continues to be a good feeling. So I'm not really looking to change much. If I'm very lucky, I get to play it out for 6 or 7 years, and it could end tomorrow. But that's true of everybody, although the equation isn't exactly the same. But I don't believe in beating yourself up, though, over anything you've done in the past, and I don't believe in, well, I believe in trying to find, what you're good at, what you enjoy, and then I think the one thing that you can aspire to be, and because this can be done by anybody and it's amazing, doesn't have anything to do with money, but you can be kind. You can be kind if you're, and then the world's better off. I'm not sure that the world will be better off if I'm richer, but there's no question that, and kind people, and in the end, aspire to be more, or I'm sure many of you are yourself, but just aspire to be more so.
This question comes from Devin Spurgeon. On March 4th, Charlie's will was filed with the County of Los Angeles. The first codicil contained an unusual provision. It reads, "Averaged out, my long life has been a favored one, made better by duty imposed by family tradition, requiring righteousness and service. Therefore, I follow an old practice that I wish was more common now, inserting an ethical bequest that gives priority not to property, but to transmission of duty." If you were to make an ethical bequest to Berkshire shareholders, what duties would you impose and why?
I'd probably say read Charlie. He's expressed it well, and I would say that if they're not financially well off, if you're being kind, you're doing something that most of the rich people don't do even when they give away money. But that's not a question of whether you're rich or poor. And I would say if you're lucky in life, make sure a bunch of other people are lucky too. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Just in case you know what my advice to myself has been during this period. So we only got 3 questions or whatever it is. But thank you very, very much for coming. And I not only hope that you come next year, but I hope I come next year. Thank you.
그가 기억하는 파트너 찰리 먼거에 대한 그리움과 존경심이 많이 느껴지는 주주총회였던 것 같습니다. 영혼의 단짝 찰리 먼거의 빈자리가 느껴졌으나 워렌 버핏의 지혜와 현명함을 느끼고 배울 수 있는 시간이었습니다. 특히 저는 버핏이 말하는 100만 달러 미만으로 연간 50%의 수익을 내는 방법이 인상적이었습니다. 버핏 할배가 운이 좋다면 앞으로 6, 7년을 더 건강히 살 수 있을 것 같다고 하셨는데 그동안 충분한 성공을 이뤘고 투자 역사에 혁신적인 성과를 거뒀다면 이제 남은 시간은 투자와 삶에 도움이 되는 이야기를 진솔하게 많은 이들에게 나눠주지 않을까요? 내년 주주총회에도 건강한 모습으로 많은 이들의 귀감이 되어주신다면 좋을 것 같습니다. 이번 주주총회에서 워렌 버핏이 AI와 관련해 언급한 부분도 화제가 되었는데요. 그 부분은 추후에 따로 업로드하도록 하겠습니다. 오늘 영상도 시청해주셔서 감사합니다. 금융시장 초과수익 지휘자 알파컨덕터였습니다.